Hey all, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be discussing why I think Revelations is not the end of Treyarch's much loved zombies mode. But before we start, I briefly want to discuss my new intro you just saw. I hope you liked it. It was made in the new 3D graphical animation software I recently came across called Fusion 8 by Blackmagic Design. And it's a great piece of software. It allows me to really start breaking the rules, I guess, when it comes to video editing. As most other software out there, only supports linear 2D styles of editing and those kind of programs. And I think it's really going to help me step up the quality of my bigger videos, especially considering we're working on episode 4 of the zombie storyline at the moment and other such big projects like that. And I really think it's going to help improve the quality of those videos when we get around to making those. So overall, I'm really excited to play around with Fusion and get some great graphics going for some future videos. So yeah, that's just a little bit of updates on that. Now let's dive into the main topic of today's video, which of course is why I don't think Revelations will be the end of COD Zombies. Now, it goes without saying that Treyarch did make it seem like Revelations was the end, obviously with the end written in giant letters. But here's the thing, it really doesn't make any sense for them to end zombies here, and this is for a variety of different reasons. Now, first and foremost, zombies is a huge selling point for Treyarch's Call of Duty games. Whenever it's Treyarch's turn to make a Call of Duty game, there's always massive hype trains in the months running up to its release, which gets people psyched about the game and thus makes people want to buy it. If Treyarch suddenly announced that Zombies was ending in Revelations, obviously these hype trains would be much smaller, and as such sales would likely drop significantly just because people wouldn't be as pumped about the game because there's no zombies in it. I'm willing to bet many people actually buy Treyarch's COD games purely for zombies and really couldn't give a rat's ass about the campaign or multiplayer, and so these fans would have absolutely no reason to buy the game. As well as that, I think announcing a new game without zombies would really piss a lot of people off, and that can never be a good thing, right? I mean, look what's happened with Infinite Warfare. Player counts have plummeted through the floor since its release, and many people just don't like the game because they didn't listen to what fans wanted when we said, we didn't want more exosuits and more future settings, we wanted to go back in the past, but now instead we've got Infinite Warfare, which is arguably the most futuristic game we've ever had in the COD franchise. Now, Treyarch knows a similar thing could happen to their upcoming game if they didn't include zombies in it. Plus, being the money whores that they are, Activision would never allow Treyarch to drop zombies because doing so would likely result in their profits falling for the reasons I previously talked about. So economics wise, it doesn't make any sense for Treyarch to end zombies at Revelations whatsoever, because obviously doing so would lose Activision quite a bit of money, and as we've seen with their supply drops and everything, that's really something that they would not tolerate. However, having said that, it could be possible that Treyarch ends our current storyline in Revelations, and by storyline I mean everything to do with Group 935 and Dempsey, Nikolai, Takeo, Richtofen, etc., and instead begin a completely new timeline with completely new characters and storyline. This would kind of make sense because in my opinion at least, it's going to be really difficult for Treyarch to continue the storyline without Origins characters from here on, without writing themselves into a corner like they almost did in Black Ops 3. I mean, think about it, the entire storyline is just a time loop, and we visited every different stage of this cycle aside from the quote-unquote ancient war between Primus and the Keepers against the Apothecans, but of course, we'll get into that into much more detail when we get to episode 4 of our zombie storyline. Now, if that ancient war is the only stage in our storyline that we haven't actually been to yet, then I really don't see how Treyarch can make an entirely new zombies game just based upon that one stage of the cycle. I mean, I guess it could work for maybe the one vanilla map that shipped with the game, but for all the DLC maps as well, I think that one setting would get old really fast. And another thing to remember is that we can't take our Origins characters to completely new locations, because any new place wouldn't fit into this endless cycle of the Ancient War, Mob of the Dead, Origins and the Black Ops 3 maps. So if Treyarch took our Origins characters to new locations, it would completely mess up the story and wouldn't make any sense because those new locations wouldn't fit into the cycle. Of course, there is the chance that perhaps they could make it so that we play as the Origins characters but approach our mission to break the cycle in a different manner, so that ultimately we don't just continue the cycle as we did in Revelations. But the thing with that is, I really don't see how that would work gameplay wise, because it would still be tied to the events of the Black Ops 3 maps, because as we said, only those maps can possibly exist within this endless cycle that we have, and obviously Treyarch can't just re-release all the Black Ops 3 maps with a slightly different storyline twist for their next game, because that's just lazy and people wouldn't like it. So for argument's sake, let's just say we know for a fact that Zombies isn't ending in Black Ops 3 Revelations. Now, this leaves us with two main possibilities for where we could be going in the future. Option 1 is introducing completely new characters and storyline in Treyarch's next game, which has little to no connection to any of the previous Zombies games, as we talked about. out. Option 2 is where it gets interesting, because instead of introducing new characters, maybe we could be seeing old characters return in the form of the 1.0 versions of Dempsey, Nikolai, Takio and Richthofen. Now, I know this may not make any sense at first, because we end up killing the 1.0 characters in Black Ops 3 Zombies, but think about it. The 2.0 characters are widely considered to have failed in their mission to break the cycle and end the zombie apocalypse. As we see in Revelations, the cycle just continues. So, what if we travel back in time and play as the 1.0 characters in an alternate timeline where they aren't killed by our 2.0 characters, and instead it's going to be our 1.0 characters who break the cycle and ultimately save the universe? This would actually make a lot of sense, because we've already talked about how it isn't going to be possible for Treyarch to continue using the Origins characters, and using completely new characters in a new storyline probably wouldn't be ideal, because as we saw during the first few maps in Black Ops 2 Zombies, people weren't overly keen on having new characters and instead want our old characters back. So again, it links back to the first point we talked about earlier, with sales not being great if fans aren't happy with the game, and how Activision wouldn't let that happen. So I think reintroducing the 1.0 characters would be a great idea, because these characters from World at War and Black Ops are really what got the Zombies community going back in the day. I mean, their quotes were hilarious, which made them memorable, and if there's one thing I think people miss from past Zombies games, it's the funny character quotes. In Black Ops 2 and 3, the quotes just aren't that funny, I don't think. At least for me, I don't know if anyone else feels that as well, but for me, I just don't find the character quotes that funny. If we return to the 1.0 crew, we could reintroduce these funny character quotes as we fight the zombies, plus doing so would allow Treyarch to take us to completely new locations without worrying about messing up the storyline as we talked about before, and perhaps we could even have another map dedicated to our characters in the 5 and Call of the Dead maps, and perhaps they could also play a role in ending the zombie apocalypse. So overall, I really do think there's a good chance our 1.0 crew could be returning for Treyarch's next COD, be it World at War 2, Black Ops 4, or maybe a completely new game. Although personally I do kind of hope it's World at War 2, because I do think we are due for a World at War 2 game. World at War 2? I mean World War 2 game. Hopefully it's going to be called World at War 2. I mean, we haven't, as I said, we haven't had a World War 2 COD for a long time now. I think it's what? Almost 10 years. I think in 2018 it's going to be 10 years since we last had a World War 2 COD game, and World War 2 is where the franchise all started, so I think it's only, I think it's only right that they do go back to their roots every once in a while and return to the World War 2 era. I mean, it all just depends on whether Activision's feeling generous or not, which doesn't seem to happen very often these days. I mean, they've put supply drops in Modern Warfare Remastered, they've pretty much ruined Infinite Warfare already, and if they continue doing what they're doing at the moment, which is just throwing DLC and microtransactions at their games, then I think Modern Warfare Remastered is also on track to being ruined, sadly. So let's just hope that some point in the future Activision do kind of get their ideas together and they decide to give us a World War 2 game, which just isn't full of microtransactions and DLC and things like that. And maybe then we'll be seeing a return to the true good old days, rather than just the futuristic exosuit bollocks that we see all the time today. So to round off this video, I think doing that would make a lot of sense storyline wise, whilst also returning the community to the good old days of Zombies back in World at War and Black Ops. Because I do think those two games are where Zombies really hit its peak and its prime, even though Black Ops 3 did come very, very close to being as good as Black Ops. Because for me, I do think Black Ops was the best that Zombies has ever gotten to. So as always, I think I should also state that although this makes sense in my head, it's still a real possibility that Treyarch has a completely different direction to Zombies planned, especially considering how the Revelations ending was so vague and didn't really offer any hints as to where we could possibly be going next. It's pretty much anyone's guess at this stage, so if there's one thing you can take away from this video, it's that although I'm pretty sure, we're 100% sure that Zombies are going to be continuing, I'm really not confident, and I don't really think anyone else is that confident as to where we could possibly be going. Although what I said earlier about the 1.0 characters, I do think that's a real possibility, all things considered. Because, as I said, there's no real good reason to end it here, and doing so just wouldn't really make any sense. But yeah, so that's just what I think. If you have any ideas as to what the future of COD Zombies holds, remember to leave them in the comments below, and maybe we can get some discussions going. But for now, I think that's pretty much it from me for today. So until next time, everyone, thanks for watching, and peace out.